Nerdiest Prime.
The Enterprise picks up an ancient admiral in unconvincing old man makeup, Mark Jamieson, and his wife Anne, who is clearly an actual senior citizen. They are headed to Morden 4 or 5. It's some random Roman numeral. Anyway, there is an evil dictator, Karnas, holding some hostages, and will only negotiate with Jamieson for their release. We never actually see these hostages, or care about who they are, and Karnas just sits around by himself with his gun collection, not coming across as particularly evil or threatening. Jamieson tours around the Enterprise in the latest version of Star Trek's long line of impractical-looking giant space wheelchairs, never once showing how it actually fits through doors. Site-to-site transports? To get through every doorway, maybe? He longs to return to the captain's chair and reminisces about the past in an old man voice as ridiculously bad as his old man makeup. Eventually, he shocks everyone by rising from his wheelchair on the bridge and sporting middle-aged man makeup that is still really bad. He springs into action. It turns out he got some youth drugs from some aliens he helped a while ago to help him and Anne be young again, but being selfish, he took them all for himself and is rapidly de-aging. He is now young enough to lead a strike team with Picard and attempt a rescue of the hostages. For some reason, almost the entire bridge crew tags along for the phaser battle rather than an actual security team. Probably so they'd have something to do in an episode pretty much devoid of anything interesting for the Enterprise crew to do. But all that goes horribly awry, and they are forced to beam out empty-handed. Jamieson is now dying with the de-aging stress on his body, and Karnas doesn't believe it is actually Jamieson, even though he should probably recognize him since he now looks like he would have when they first had dealings decades ago. But anyway, Karnas is hoping to get revenge for Jamieson, sparking a planetary war with supplying weapons to the different factions. However, the drug overdose does Jamieson in, and he dies weak and sweaty by his wife's side. And Karnas, who misses out on revenge, releases the hostages. The crew then fly off, hoping the next adventure will have more for them to do. The end.
Hi, welcome to Nerdiest Prime. This week we are reviewing Star Trek The Next Generation, too short a season, and I'm joined once again by the Nerdiest Prime crew, Alan O'Neill.
Peace.
And Namia Ahmed.
Hello.
And I'm Lucas Cardona Morse. So, what do you guys think of this episode?
I guess I'll go first.
Wait. Can I have you go last? I want you to go last. I think it's going to be a lot funnier if you go. Because it's going to be a lot funnier if you go last. I think. What do you say? Okay.
Then why did you ask who was going to go first?
I didn't ask. I didn't do anything. I was being passive. I'm sorry. That was my fault. It was my fault.
Am I going then?
Yes, Alan,
please
are you
go. Going?
No, you go.
Okay, how about we just come up with an order that we always follow?
Well, it's always Alan, you, and me. That's always what happens.
Fine.
I go in alphabetical order of some kind.
What? But his last name comes first. But my first name comes first. I don't understand your.
He didn't say what language. He didn't say what language. It's Persian.
No, well, this is what happens. It's alphabetical order, but then I always go last because I'm being polite. So it's actually two things at the same time. It's A, N, but I can be alphabetical because then I'd always be second, but I always want to feel like it's proper if I'm last. So that's why it's A,
okay.
N, that's alphabetical, and then it's me.
I think you're making Alan tired.
Oh, that was
okay.
Good. Okay.
So am I going?
Yes, please go.
Oh, I need a lead in. Come on.
Okay,
just
so
jump
what
in.
did Alan? What did you think? And very brief, in under 30 seconds, what did you think of this episode?
Oh, the pressure. This one, I actually don't mind this one. I like this one well enough. I find this is, I guess, our first one with a corrupt admiral. The theme of the corrupt admiral, like, recurs many, many times. Who comes aboard to try to fix the situation that he created years ago. The makeup I find is really bad in this. I find it very distracting and hilarious. But story-wise, I think it's a solid story, especially for when you see other first season offerings. So yeah, I actually don't mind this one too much. I find there's some positive stuff in it.
That's not all I expected you to say.
Oh, okay.
That
Was that not funny enough?
I think too short a season is basically the bottom of the barrel. I hope I never have to watch
I
this
thought
again.
I was going next. You just spent 10 minutes telling us about the order.
I'm curious to see why you hate this one more than a lot of the others, because there's a lot of dreck in this season. And this is actually not that bad.
I'm actually gonna fire myself. I'm gonna just fire myself now. Go ahead, Amir.
Yeah, okay. So I think out of all of us, I'm usually pretty okay with the first season episodes, but this one just didn't do it for me. And it was the Admiral and the actor and the makeup, and all of that just kind of pulled me right out of it. And the rest of the crew isn't really in it. Like it's really about the Admiral. And I didn't want to see I don't want to see a show about the Admiral. I want to see the show about the crew of the Enterprise.
You make a very good point, Amir. I'm gonna touch on that as well. Yes, I think that this is the bottom of the barrel. The teaser is weak, the plot is weak, the action is weak, the music sucks, and the writing is boring, and the makeup, the acting is sort of bad. And I haven't rewatched this episode. I think the last time I'd seen this episode was like 20, 30 years ago, and it was just as bad as I remembered it being. And I hope I never have to watch it again. So, I mean, what?
Ouch.
How do you guys?
Jeez, I feel.
How do you guys feel about the premise of the show? The premise being, this reverse aging kind of thing, coupled with a sort of a terrorist negotiation kind of thing. Namir, why did you start? Well,
I'll just shut up there.
This is a disaster.
Over here, just waiting.
A complete disaster.
Every time he wants to jump in, I jump in, then I'm shut down. I don't know what to do.
Okay, go ahead, Alan. Sorry, you go ahead, Alan. I'm just going to stop. You guys just
Well, no, I'm saying that I think is what I like about this one is the premise, is that the premise is interesting, and I think there's a good story there, and that's what I like about this one, is that the story makes sense. Everything that happens in this episode makes sense. Even though the crew don't have as much to do as they usually would, nobody comes off as stupid. Nobody's doing things that defy logic. Like, that's what I appreciate about this, because there's so much of that in what we've already watched that just makes no sense. So that's actually, I think maybe that's why I have a higher opinion of it, is because we have a story that proceeds in logical sense, and and I feel like the first season's lacking a lot of that. So I appreciate that about the premise. Jump in, whoever wants to go next.
Is it my turn now, Lucas? So you're asking about the story. So I thought the story was fine. I liked it. I thought it was kind of a solid sci-fi premise. My issue is really with the execution. I think the potential was there for the story to be good, but the pieces didn't quite fit together for me.
Well, I feel like kind of in terms of a premise it can be interesting to do like a de-aging kind of, if somebody could like de-age themselves. It's theoretically an interesting idea, but I just feel like they don't pull it off. They don't make it interesting. And in this episode, and then also there's kind of like that's the A story, and then there's like a B story, which is the kidnapping of hostages and negotiating with terrorists, and those two storylines.
Am I distracting you?
Or you were distracting me, and then you started talking. There's the A story and the B story, and basically those two things, they don't really have anything in common. It's just sort of circumstantial. Jesus Christ, I can't work out these things.
What's happening?
Sorry, I'm injured.
Oh my God. What did you do to yourself?
I'm all right. I'll live. Not much loss of blood.
Are you sure?
Sorry.
Anyways,
I missed your point.
I feel like the A and B story don't really work together. They're kind of separate stories. They're just circumstantially like linked up together. And maybe I'll touch on this some more, but I just feel like thematically and story wise, there were a lot of opportunities that were missed that basically made it a boring episode.
I think this is another example too, where they had to bring in conflict from an external source because Gene Roddenberry was all like, everybody's part of the Get Along gang and there's no conflict, and all these people are professionals, so they had to bring in, external sources of conflict, and that's what this Admiral takes up a whole lot of time.
Well, I feel like what they were good at later on, and they actually had learned that already in the original series, but somehow totally forgot it in this circumstances, is to make it personal to our main characters. And so if, for example, the Admiral was Beverly's father or something, that would have changed the, it would have made the whole story personal and really raise the stakes. But otherwise what we're doing is we're getting a guest actor who kind of becomes the main character of the show. And like you said, Namir, you want to watch a show about our main characters, not this random guy. And because it's about this random Admiral, it really depends on his performance. And, I think he did an okay job, but he did a lot of overacting in the old man acting.
I'm old. Hey.
Where's
my bidet?
I expect him to go like
his old man voice continues when he's young too. I'm like, why is he still like mixing it up between his young guy voice and his old man voice? Like when he's dying at the end, he's still Karnas, why are you talking like this? Is your old man voice same as your dying voice? Because the actor was horrible, but yeah.
I think you make a good point, right? There I think that was the thing that was, actually, there was like a missing connection. Like there wasn't anything to tie that character to this like TV show, right? To the rest of the people that we've been watching for, what is this, episode 12 now? Something like that? For 3/4 of a season. So it feels strange. Like it's a weird disconnect, right? At least if it was like, maybe if it was a character from, the original series or something that they brought back, and they aged a lot, and then that would at least there would be some sort of connection there. But
Admiral McCoy.
Yeah, totally. That would have been great. I would have loved that. But they do something like that later with Spock, right? And it feels right. Like it works. It makes sense. But that's missing here, and I don't think they ever really explained. Maybe I missed it, but I don't remember them ever really explaining how he was de-aging. Like, what was he taking?
I think he probably went to the bathroom during that scene, because they explain it
Space
specifically
medicine.
that he had negotiated a treaty for this planet. I don't remember the name of the planet, and they had this organic compound made from leaves or whatever that, in conjunction with drugs, or synthetic drugs would de-age you, and you would take it, once a month or whatever, and progressively you de-age over time, although it was highly fatal in 90% of cases.
All of that happened in the episode? I think I missed like the entirety of that.
Well, that's where stuff started to go off the rails too, like with the character.
That's how boring this episode is. That you just like you probably
Well, no, it's that he, he got in. He says he gets enough medicine to do it for both him and his wife, but then he decides that he wants to speed up the process and takes her dose too. I'm like, oh, so you're crooked and you're an asshole. I'm like, we're not rooting for you at all. We just wish you would die, and we finally get our wish at the end.
Well, I think the problem is they don't pick a side. They don't make him a bad guy. He's obviously not a good guy.
Yeah, he just seems like a selfish asshole the whole time.
Yeah, but
that's why I kind of thought. And I kind of thought there'd be some more conflict when he takes over command of the Enterprise. Because, I mean, I know it's his rank. He can take control of the Enterprise. But, that was some opportunity for Picard, maybe to have some drama, butt heads with the Admiral. But he kind of just says, oh, yeah, sure, you're the Admiral and I'm the captain. Have a seat. Yeah. Even though you're a decrepit old man. Sure. I found it funny, too, that when they all sat down, how he's in command, he's in the command chair, and then Picard goes to number one's chair, and then number one is in Counselor Troy's chair, and then Counselor Troy's sitting on the little bench. I'm like, did between scenes, did Riker go over and says, excuse me, Counselor, I need your seat. You got to sit over here. What she should have done. I want to see that conversation.
You're such an asshole, Bill.
She should have taken over Data's seat, and then Data should have taken over Geordi's seat, and then Geordi should have taken over Tasha Yar's seat, and then all the way until like the ensign is like, I guess I'm leaving.
He had the afternoon off.
Yeah, okay.
He just sits on the floor.
But it was like such an unchivalrous thing to do. I'm like, did he actually ask Troy to get out of her seat so he could sit there next to the command officer?
Well, I wonder. I like it. I like that they have seat positions, because I wonder if that was a decision they made consciously, but I wonder how that came about, because it was always very clear that that Picard was in the middle, and Riker was on the left, and Troy was on the right, and if Crusher showed up, then she was on the little seat on the right. It was always very each time. So it's interesting because it kind of implies that there's a Starfleet manual for seating on the bridge.
Yeah, seating regulations.
Seating regulations.
I would have loved it if somebody reached under a console and just pulled out a little plastic folding chair and just and then put it down.
And it didn't make any. And I noticed that too. And it didn't make any sense that the Admiral was sitting in Picard's chair. I don't think that really happens again after that. It seems weird. Even if there's an Admiral, they don't just sit in the chair. I mean, I think you're right, Alan. If there would have been a scene where he basically pulled rank and was like, I'm in command of the Enterprise, and sat in the chair, they made a big deal out of it. That would have been really cool, but they didn't do that.
They did not.
I thought the makeup was pretty good, except he is supposedly 85.
No.
You guys don't agree with me.
No.
I was like, was Michael Westmore off that day? Is this the Beeline makeup people? Because it looked awful, and it would look even worse in HD.
Yeah, that's why the Admiral is half the scenes of the Admiral when he's old are in the dark.
I know, he looks like he's 140 with that melty face makeup.
Well, that's my whole point. My whole point is he's supposed to be 85, but he looked older than McCoy, who was 137.
Well, yeah, he looked like the host from Tales of the Crypt. With this guy, he looks so ghastly. He looks like his whole face is melting. And then he gradually turns it to, he gradually throughout the episode just turns it to a low-rent Richard Dean Anderson from MacGyver. So,
yeah, I don't know what happened, because in later episodes they do the aging thing again. They apply makeup and it looks much better. With Pulaski, that looks really good.
Yeah, and in Picard in the Inner Light, and even in all the things old age makeup apparently improved a lot because this just looks really bad. And you say it, like you said earlier, his overacting with his old man mannerisms, like it's just, yeah. And I'm interested that you never see that his wheelchair go through a door either. I really want to see that wheelchair try to fit through one of those doors because they always cut away before he went through an entryway.
He just gets out of the seat. He gets out of the seat and picks up his wheelchair and moves it across and he gets back in again.
Because that is a bulky piece of medical equipment. But you say the same about Pike's chair as well, so.
Yeah, it's kind of like Pike's chair. It's like,
yeah. You didn't have the yes, no lights installed yet. You didn't have the yes, no package.
I feel like he was so unrecognizable as his younger self. Like they put so much makeup on him that that he doesn't look like himself at all. So it would have made a lot more sense for them to use an older actor and kind of pull a looper with Bruce Willis and Gordon Levitt Jr., whatever his name is, and have like two actors playing the same role, because it would have been just as effective because you can't even tell it's the same guy. And then you wouldn't have had like needed a 35-year-old to play like Scrooge basically.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I kind of understand why they did it this way, because I think it would be difficult to get two actors that look enough alike, like each other, that one can play the old version of the young one. Like even in Looper with, Gordon Levitt and Bruce Willis, they don't really look the same, right? But they had to do that because they're in the same scene.
They needed Kirk Douglas and Michael Douglas. That's what they needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that would have been great. Oh my God.
Yeah, or they could have done Benjamin Button. They just waited 10 years. They could have just like scanned his face and put it in a computer and then just DH him.
Yeah, they should go back.
I don't think they were doing that in 1997 either.
No, they weren't. They should go back to this episode now and apply digital makeup and see what people think.
But did you know that he only had 3 stages? He had old, then he had 60, and then he was young. That was it. There was no middle ground. Really.
That's so they could do their little 3-picture show for Karnas at the end. I'm like, here, no, I'm telling you, just stay here. Look at this little, like, I don't know. He brought this like little camera. I've never seen this prop before. And it's like, oh yes, you sent me three pictures that are probably photoshops. Cool, I believe you now. Because yeah, you're right. He looks nothing like his younger self. Therefore, why would Karnas even believe it? It's like, yeah, that old melty dude. That's who I'm looking for.
But that whole thing,
low rent MacGyver.
We're getting ahead of ourselves, but that whole thing doesn't make any sense because Karnas would have known Jamieson as a young guy. So he would recognize Jamieson as a young guy. If anything, he wouldn't recognize Jamieson as an admiral, as an old guy.
He'd been talking to him recently, visually. So he knew he was an old dude.
Yeah, I know that he knows that, but what I'm saying is that he originally, way back in, that's what he would have looked like.
Yeah. He should recognize him as his young self, right?
No, Namir, don't even start with that. You're going to start with something.
No. All I'm saying is
that makes sense.
Okay. If I, let's say 20 years from now,
you look exactly the same.
No, 20 years from now, if I try and recognize like the 20-year-old Alan or the 20-year-old Lucas, it's going to be difficult. Honestly, I don't even remember what Alan looked like in Halifax.
But I'm not saying that.
It was like this without so much of this. And I didn't have the glasses back then.
This is what I'm saying. If you had a friend, Amir, when you were 19 and your friend was 19, and then you never saw your friend again ever, then you would remember the 19-year-old version of your friend. So if the 19-year-old version of your friend showed up 30 years later, you'd be like, that's messed up, but I totally recognize you because you look exactly like what I last remembered you as.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think it's a weird thing to harp on.
Oh, that could be your whole argument?
Just yeah.
That's how I know I know you know I'm right.
He tries to change the subject.
Let's talk about the next thing.
I was going to say that they tend to over that dramatized in the first season, and it's always to the detriment of the episode, because often the story or the drama is interesting, but because they really lay it on thick and they really are go like, oh, dun dun dun, for each moment, it kind of pulls me out of it each time, and I don't feel connected to it.
Well, give an example.
Well, there was like
Good point.
there was the scenes with the Admiral when he was with his wife, and she's like, Mark, you're walking. He's like, oh yes, I've been taking steroids. It's a new treatment, but everything is like kind of overplayed, and that was also the best example, but that's what I'm talking about.
Like
It's not a good example.
His hobbling to the con. And he almost falls.
Well,
And then Jordy tries to catch him.
Yeah,
Okay,
the problem is that you know that he's a young man playing, like a young actor playing an old man. So
Like
it's
me-
tough
like
to
me?
believe it.
like me personally, or you mean like the general you?
No, general, like the audience,
okay.
the audience,
Oh,
not,
yeah.
not
Okay.
you, Lucas. like anybody that watches it knows that he's a young person playing an older man. So immediately you're like, this is not believable, right? So I think with your suggestion of having an older actor and then just kind of like, I don't know, doing a dissolve into like the younger actor's face or something, maybe would have been a better way to go.
Well, the eyes are always a dead giveaway. I find anytime I try to put a young actor in old makeup, the eyes always look too young. And that's what always throws me.
Well,
It doesn't have that age and those lines.
yeah. Well, I can't think. To be honest, I can't think of an example of the over dramatization, even though this episode is super over dramatic for unnecessarily. But I was thinking about Conspiracy. I just watched that the other day, and that episode is really good, except they keep undermining the drama of the episode by going like, Jean-Luc, don't trust anybody, and then suddenly you're like, well, it's all overplayed. But if you had to said it casually, then it's a lot more paranoid, and I go, oh, don't trust anybody, like, what does that mean, But and so there's a lot of examples of that kind of stuff in this episode too, where, Karnas is like, you can't trick me, like, and then it's like I'm watching a play, so I'm kind of being pulled out of the drama.
Well, I wonder if we're just more savvy TV watchers now, right? Like we were watching it in the 80s. all 80s television had that, right? It wasn't just TNG, right? It's basically everything. And that kind of changed over time until we have the TV that we have now, which isn't quite as bad as
Understated.
Yeah, it's a little bit more understated, right? Like, so we're a little bit used to it. So when we look back at it, it's kind of like the special effects and the makeup, right? At the time, we were probably like, yeah, that's pretty good. But now we look back at it and go, that is not good, not good at all, right? But it's because it's in 2022 and not 1980.
I don't know. We
whatever.
had old age makeup in the 60s, and I think the Deadly Years of TOS looks much, 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 much better than this. If you look at that, like, they looked really good in that. There's other people that they aged too, I think, because they aged a horror in one episode, and everybody, like, the makeup in the 60s looked great for all that. And I was like, I don't know what they did here, but I don't know who sat and looked at that's perfect. Let's film this, because it didn't look good at all. Was that Gene Roddenberry?
Well, what I thought what was funny was that scene where the Admiral had sort of regressed 30 years younger, and his wife is really surprised, and his first thought is to like get it on with his geriatric wife, and
Let's break a hip, baby.
It's working again. I can't believe it.
Dear Lord. It's been so
Wouldn't it be
long,
funny
so
if-
dry.
Wouldn't it be funny if that's the original reason why he took that drug? It's just like a 23rd century Viagra.
Speaks Viagra.
Space Viagra.
That's what that whole planet is
I was
based
like,
around.
how does this planet not under constant siege from people looking for the fountain of youth? You know, because we have a whole movie about that in Insurrection where people were vying for control of the powers to be forever young. I'm like, man, you think everybody'd be after this?
Well, I guess the cost is that you die, right? Like if you...
Well, still, it'd be worth getting into that resource and then fine tuning it.
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
I sort of chalked it up to like, only a few people knew about it, and it wasn't like common knowledge. And
man, why would they trust this guy then? Because he's got ski written all over him.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Like he had negotiated a treaty for them. They felt that they owed him.
Did he give them weapons too? Because it seems like he's a shitty negotiator. He's like, "What do you want? Oh, okay, I get that for you. Here, thank you for the hostages."
Yeah, his strategy is
He's
I
like-
will give everybody everything they want. That's
Because
it'll all
that's
work
what
out.
I thought was interesting about this was that was his tactic. You know, because normally you would have these ambassadors would show up on the Enterprise and they would have these masterful skills. Like they always talk about, oh, how great this ambassador was at negotiating this or whatever, but never really delve into what made them so great, like Curzon Dax and Deep Space Nine and ones like that. And it's like, oh, and they the reason why this guy's so successful is because he just gives into demands. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that. I could see me doing that too if I was in that position.
I think what I want to see like them talking about like this really good negotiator, and then they do a whip pan and it's Samuel L. Jackson.
Never say no to a hostage taker. It's in the manual.
Oh, and then so that scene is always really awkward of the two old people trying to the old guy trying to his wife, and she's like, I'm like, oh, what am I watching? And there's a part of me that always wonders when I see something random sex thing in the middle of an episode of like, did Gene Roddenberry do that? Did he put that? Did he sneak away with a script? I'm like, yeah, a little sex in here. Put it back. And it's like
there's
the
people that
actor-
are into this.
And the actors like the next day, like, I wasn't there. That wasn't there yesterday. Did you read these things? And I go, well, I guess we're doing the way.
And Gene Roddenberry's like, I don't know, he's just eating a sandwich in the corner.
Just watching. I hope you're going to the bathroom.
Just watching. There he sat watching.
We did.
I thought I really liked the one. Okay, I'll tell you a couple good things that I like over the episode. There was a really cool hallway backdrop that they use in the underground city. That's pretty awesome. I like the whole concept of the underground city. I like the whole concept of the underground city. But I feel like it's done in Star Trek later, and it's done better, like in Legacy Season 4. And I really like Karnas, the actor who plays Karnas. He's got a really great voice and a great presence, and I feel like it's too bad they could have really done something really good with that actor. And I think that actor played a Klingon in the original series. He played the Klingon that starts the fight with Scotty in Trouble Tribbles.
Yes, I couldn't remember which one, but I do know he was in the original series.
You're right. I didn't say that the Enterprise should be hauling garbage. I'd say that the Enterprise should be hauled away as garbage.
All right, there's your TikTok for tomorrow.
There you go. That's all you.
I mean, I know you guys don't apparently have a whole lot of love for it, but I like the phaser fight. I was like, it was our first real like phaser duel in Next Generation, because Next Generation is pretty dry when it comes to action, so it was a little refreshing that they got down and into the thick of it. Yeah, so I enjoyed the phaser fight. I don't know why the phasers, when they hit people, they make that weird circle thing. I don't know what that is. I don't know why the ray gun,
There's so many things that are wrong with
hit
that.
them and they fall over.
There's so many things that are wrong with that phaser fight, but mostly it's just really boring and bad. But this is what I thought about when I was watching it. Like, why are they hiding behind barrels? Because all they could do is hit the disintegrate button and disintegrate the barrel. Then the person's like, whoa, and then they hit the kill button.
Well, no, maybe their lasers weren't as effective. Their lasers didn't have those capabilities.
They're always hiding behind barrels and crates and trees and stuff. That's that's not just this episode.
Yeah,
That's
unless
true.
you're the red shirt or the gold shirt, then they jump right out in the open. Enemies can have clear shot.
Yeah, exactly. And then everybody's hiding behind them.
I feel like, we're getting up to that. I think in Heart of Glory is coming up. That's always one I love for the gold shirts getting
Wiped
easily
out.
shot down. Yeah.
Okay, this is my other gripe with the phaser battle. So this is why I don't understand. Data says to Picard, "Sir, those lasers are on kill." And then Picard says, "I know, Commander. I know the sound of a laser on kill." So it makes me wonder, what do the phasers make a different sound whether they're on kill or on stun?
I just assumed that it was like a higher intensity beam, so that the frequency was higher, so it sounds higher. Which makes sense to me.
Do you think about this stuff, or you just make it up on the go?
What do you mean? Did I just come up with that?
Yeah, you always have like a really good explanation for something that I feel like there's no way you can explain this away, and then you always have a perfect explanation. I'm like, is he totally bullshitting? But he just like come up with that right now? That's amazing. Or is he like, you thought about it for a long time, and you're like, actually, this is what I think.
It's like those phaser frequencies haunted my dreams for many a year till I figured it out.
I wake up in the middle of the night. I got it. It's been 10 years. I got it. Finally.
Eureka! You're just throwing your papers everywhere, running naked down the hallway.
Jen's like, I needed all those papers that you threw out.
Pick those up.
Pick those up.
Well, with that answer, just that answer alone and that image alone makes me accept your explanation.
Okay, good. It's good. I mean, it makes sense, right?
Did you have any thoughts? No, it never occurred to you when Picard says, "Oh, I know what they sound like," but they sound exactly the same to me.
I think they just needed somebody to say something. Just wrote some random dialogue. I don't know. Like, because they didn't know how to write a compelling phaser battle, so they just said, let's just have them talk about ray guns. I don't know. I just liked it because it was a little, even though it was still pretty tame, it was better. It was more exciting than anything else we've seen on Next Generation so far when it comes to a fight scene.
Yeah, it's true. Like, I didn't mind it. I thought it was, it was time for a good phaser battle.
Yeah, because the only ones we've really had so far is like stupid things wrestling the crew, like the the Napoleon Beast in Hiding Q, and like the Ferengi in Last Outpost. Those are like the fights we've had so far, and they're just awful.
Those whips are amazing.
We never see them again.
I know it's a
There's a good reason, because it was a shitty prop. I'm pretty sure they mentioned that at the backs, like they kept not working, like the spring-loaded mechanism was faulty.
No,
so they just stopped
I
using
remember
it.
I remember when I first saw that, and I was a kid. I was like, "Oh, that's so cool!" I was like, "That's
What I
amazing."
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and
They
then
do bring them
never
back in
showed it again.
Enterprise when they could do CGI. They do bring them back in Enterprise. Yeah,
Oh, do
That's
they
good.
have them in lower decks? I feel like they have them in lower decks.
they might have them.
they might.
I think they might. Yeah, I think they do.
They might.
It might just be wishful thinking. Okay, I don't want to be an asshole about this episode, but there's something else I don't understand about this episode. So there's a whole scene where the Admiral has to talk to Karnas, and he wants to like talk in secret. So he says to Data, call Karnas, and then Picard interrupts and says, "We'll make sure that's encrypted." And he's like, "Oh, good idea. Yeah, you should totally encrypt that thing." Okay, well, let's put aside the whole logic of it, why they say that in the story. But I go, what, isn't every communication from a military Starfleet vessel to another place encrypted? Or why would they have to say that specifically?
Well, I guess you can have
Facebook
an open
is listening,
channel.
so it can plan what ads to show in their news feed. And Google.
No, I missed what
And
you said.
Instagram.
What'd you say?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I said they don't want to have them encrypted. Then Facebook can listen in and target ads later on in their Facebook newsfeed.
That's funny. Okay, what do you say, Amir?
I don't know. I didn't really notice that. I feel like they probably pointed it out because they wanted to show that he's a little bit out of touch. Like he doesn't really know. He's not quite on his game. Like he's 100% not there. But if he was like, the young Admiral, he would have just been like encrypted channel, right? So he's just like not quite 100% with it. So that's kind of what I feel it was.
But it's interesting because the whole reason for encrypting the channel is that he could talk to Karnas about the thing that he did. Like he didn't want anybody to hear that. He didn't want Picard or Data or anybody to hear that stuff. So, but it was Picard who gave him like the reason to encrypt it. So it's like a weird thing. Really, he just in terms of writing, it should have been him being very insistent about encrypting things and it kind of making everybody suspicious. But that was taken away by the fact that Picard had to remind him to encrypt his message that then he used.
Honestly, I didn't really have a problem with it because I feel like that's kind of Picard's job, right? Like, no matter what, this dude's an admiral and Picard's just a captain, right? So his job is, even if he doesn't agree with everything that he's saying, and for most of the episode, Picard kind of just goes along with everything. It's still his job to remind the admiral of the things that he needs to do, right? So, it's not like, I don't think Picard felt like the admiral was really stepping on his toes, right? He was just like, this is my job. I'm going to do my job, right? That's what's great about Picard, right? Because he just does his job. I mean, in the first season, and then later on, it just kind of things change. But anyway, that to me was what that felt like. I didn't even notice that until you brought it up.
I know. There was okay. So there's another thing that I thought was weird was Troy. Okay, so the Troy, Crusher, and Jameson's wife are in sickbay, and she's the Jameson's wife. I don't forget what her name is, but she's saying, "Well, he's like, oh, he's young again. He has his whole life to live again, and I'm still old, and then Troy tells Crusher like, tell her. He's like, tell me what? And then Crusher says, well, he basically like, the thing's not working, your husband's dying. But I found that weird. Why does Troy know what that guy's medical condition is, but the wife doesn't know? I felt like a contrivance, like to like make a dramatic scene where the doctor has to say something to the wife,
Feels like that's a whole lot of violation of the doctor-patient confidentiality.
This is what I'm talking about.
Is it though?
There's a
I
whole
feel
lot
like
of
you're
that
not.
going on.
That's totally what I'm talking about. It's like, that's what my problem with the whole scene is.
I'm like, well, do people tell spouses about? I don't think they do they? I don't think that's a thing.
Yeah, but they would tell a spouse before they would tell you, or is she like supposed to be like a psychiatrist? Then you tell a psychiatrist before you tell the wife? I don't know. It just registered as a weird thing.
Do they ever have like does that ever come up again? Like patient-doctor confidentiality?
Well, I just assumed that it exists now, that it would exist in the future. But maybe it does.
Maybe space ethics are different. I don't know.
Yeah. The only thing that follows the Prime Directive. That's it. Everything else is like the Wild
They
West.
don't even follow that very well.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, it's like Jameson, where he's like, I give weapons to everyone. It was my own interpretation of the Prime Directive.
he's like
what?
the Oprah Winfrey of Starfleet.
You get a weapon. You get a weapon. We all get weapons. Everybody gets weapons. Everybody, look under your seat. You have a weapon.
He's like, I just thought it would be over in a little bit. Like, a few people would die. And then I didn't think it would last for decades.
I know.
Like,
and nobody's like, what did you base that on? What political theory did you base this major move on? He's like, my gut.
Yeah. It's like, how do you get to the rank of Admiral? Because he wasn't very good. I don't know. Captain by the sounds.
I don't know. Maybe this isn't the first time he took that de-aging thing. He's just had a lot of chances to become Admiral.
He's really 800 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
I keep fucking up.
This time I'll get it. Nope, not this time.
I was easily corrupted again. Damn it.
Oh. But I'm not the problem. The world is the problem.
The universe.
The universe
I'll
is the
just
problem.
keep living through time until people agree with me.
Oh, man. This is not a good episode.
Are we talking about the Star Trek episode or us?
Maybe a bit of both.
So,
I say.
Yep. Go ahead, Al.
Oh no, I'm just saying. I was like, there was just a good story here that was kind of pissed away. That's all. Think about it now, but I definitely do feel like you guys have been nicer to episodes that are worse than this. But yeah.
What? This is definitely the worst episode.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's the worst episode. It's definitely in the bottom half.
Okay, what's worse than this episode? I'm just
Code
curious.
of Honor.
I feel like you guys were giving props to like
racist,
the Last Outpost. You gave props to Last Outpost.
The Last Outpost is a better episode. That's true.
It's not a better episode. Last Outpost sucks. And you guys were big on Hide and Q too, and I thought Hide and Q was shitty.
Oh, that's a great episode.
And I said half
what?
of it was good.
To be honest, I don't really remember what episodes I liked and what episodes I don't like anymore.
I don't think you've hated anything other than like Code of Honor.
Well, maybe that sounds about right.
Season 1 is your favorite season, remember?
Yeah, even though he told us all storylines from season 2. Like, we're Data, Sherlock Holmes. That was really good. And I'm like, that's not even a season.
Well, it was at the start of season 2, so it kind of blends into season 1. Still has a residual season 1-ness.
Rolled.
But actually, some of my favorite episodes from season 1 are coming up.
Me too. I'm very excited for. I'm really happy because there's I think this and Home Soil. Like Home Soil is gonna be like, oh my god, to get through. I have not seen Home Soil since like 1993 because that's that bad. The only
I'm surprised too. The Red Letter Media guys liked Home Soil when they did their season 1 review, and I just like, what? I'm like, that racist rock. I was like, that was a terrible episode.
Oh, I don't remember this episode at all. Racist rock.
Yeah, ugly bags of mostly
good.
water.
Ugly bags of mostly water.
Yeah.
I remember the line. I don't remember the episode.
That's very
Okay,
racist.
it's coming up in 2 weeks.
Oh,
We're gonna
good.
get to have a lot of fun with that. Okay, so
I have one last kind of comment that I think is a little bit weird. It kind of bothered me that they never showed the hostages. They just kind of like talk about the hostages a lot, but you never actually see them. And it's kind of a weird thing. Like, you don't, as an audience, you don't have anything to connect to. I just thought it was an odd choice. I was like, why wouldn't they just show them, going,
Never were any hostages.
I like that twist.
Oh, I did, but too bad that twist isn't in the episode.
But I think we should do a special episode where we rewrite this episode. So it's basically a Crusher's father that comes the ship. She's so happy to see him, and then she notices that he's like going through some changes, and then she's like, "Dad, why did you do this? Why did you take the de-aging drug?" He's like, "Because I can be better than ever." And she's like, she doesn't want to tell anybody about it, and her loyalty to Picard is tested. And then we see a lot of hostages like in the dark.
Mm-hmm. But that's a good idea.
But who would hump who though? We need to write in a humping scene. The dad can't hump Crusher. That would
We could
be
just
weird.
we could just wheel in the widow, not the widow, the wife.
So Beverly's mom.
Yeah,
but she's in like the old school Pike with wheelchair with the beeping, and he's like, I don't know how this worked. Where do I put the thing?
With the
And
yes
she's
no
like,
package.
Beep beep beep.
clunk, clunk, clunk.
Like right now, I have to blink. How much does it cost to upgrade to the yes no light? It's like I'm tired of blinking.
Isn't it just possible that you don't get to be a Starfleet captain without knowing whether it's safe to beam down or not?
I have no problem with following any rules you lay down, short of compromising your safety.
But I am the captain of the ship, and I have a right to accompany him. Riker, you're in command of the Enterprise. Energize.
Okay, so Riker in the first episode is this whole speech about I didn't let Captain DeSoto go down to the planet because the captain's life is priority number one. I'm going to the planet. You don't get to go to the planets. And then Picard goes, I'm going to the planet into a war zone with like terrorists and all this stuff. And Riker's like, okay.
Why does your Riker sound like an elderly drunk? Like a salty sea captain. You're not going down to that planet there, sir. Like, I've never heard Riker talk like
Yes, it's true. Okay,
Well,
you do
it-
Riker.
it-
You do Riker. Okay. Yes.
I can't
Mr.
do
Mayor?
Riker.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I
and
want to hear
Sorry.
Alan's Riker. I want to.
I don't have a Riker impersonation. I can put my foot up on something, maybe, if we can get a wide shot. I'm like,
Or trying to throw my leg over the back of this chair.
Yeah. Oh, I
might
have a
hurt
Riker.
myself.
I have a Riker. Do you want to hear my Riker? My Riker is, hey, is your sister available?
He never says that.
But he's always thinking it.
Every time he lifts his leg to throw it over the back of a chair, he's trying to show off his junk. It's like, see this? You could have this.
Did you guys see that TikTok? It was a TikTok with like the guy. It was like beginner level, intermediate level, expert level Riker maneuver, and Jonathan
Yeah,
Frakes
I've seen it.
is watching it.
I have seen that. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, and there was the one where he tries to flip his leg over the bend. I was like,
Yeah. He's got some. He definitely like. I don't know if it's Riker or Frakes, but he's got some weird mannerisms. Like he's got the chair thing, and if you watch him walk, he's always walking with his head like this, to the side, and then he doesn't cross his arm. He does this. Yeah, he's
Well,
like,
it's kind of weird.
yeah, it's like.
but okay, but when did you
hug.
when did you notice that? Like, did you notice that like as an adult, or did you notice that as a kid watching the show?
I don't remember. I just always knew that. It was weird. I must have noticed it when I was a kid.
Yeah, it was the same thing with me. That was the first thing I noticed about Jonathan Frakes. It was something was always slightly off about him because he was like walking with his as if his head was a governor. Like I'm turning left. I'm turning right. But I always liked the Riker maneuver. I always liked the leg over the chair. I remember seeing that and being in high school and being like, I'm doing that. I come into class, I do the Riker maneuver, sit down, look around.
Say what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
No,
Nobody notices.
nobody even noticed I was there.
The girls were not turned on by it.
They didn't know I was there.
Did you explain it to them? You're like, it's the Riker maneuver. Star Trek: The Next Generation. It's from Star Trek.
If you want to get punched, you start talking about Star Trek: The Next Generation. That's like, sure enough. I remember when we were in English class, because I went to French school.
Start punching you. It's like, it'll teach you to not be watching ESPN.
The original series is better.
Okay.
We're getting really off topic. There's nothing else to say about this episode, I guess.
Maybe we should just do the ratings. This over with.
But hold on. Oh, no. There's a few more things. Hold on.
Oh, really?
It's almost 10 o'clock. It's almost 10. That's...
Yeah, how long have you recorded?
Time to wrap this with a button. A
Listen,
Benjamin button.
I'm not the one who was late.
Yeah, it's me.
You were late? No. They brought... Oh, yeah, they brought... well, we kind of talked about it already. It was funny how they brought up another convenient, like, episode recap. Like, no, we can prove that he's young. Bring out the episode recap. And it was like... and all the shots were shots from the episode. Just like what they did with Riker.
Production stills.
Yeah.
I didn't want that.
For your consideration.
That'd be funny if they just kept on doing that the whole series. Every time they look back, it was always like some mysterious floating camera. It's like, I didn't remember seeing a camera there when we were talking about the antimatter inducers, but I guess there was one there.
Cameras everywhere on the Enterprise.
Isn't there a clip show coming up? Isn't there a clip episode?
That's at the end of second season.
Yes, where all of Riker's memories are conveniently from the last 2 years of his life. Oh,
okay,
so bad.
This is the last two things I'm going to say about the episode that kind of bothered me. One was there was a super convenient scar that they could use to identify, like, oh, it is you because you have that scar that, you know.
Yes, you could possibly replicate that with prosthetics.
Yeah. Yeah? No, nothing. Okay.
Well, I feel like it's weird that scars even exist during this time.
It looks like he slit his wrist too. I'm like, isn't that a dangerous place to have a blood brother scar or whatever? I'm like, here, let me just slit your wrist open. Like, Jesus, couldn't he do it up here or something? You know,
I feel like they always do stuff like that in the most painful place in Star Trek. When the Klingons are doing blood oaths, they cut the middle of their hand, like.
Oh yeah, they kept doing that randomly in Deep Space Nine too for like checking for shapeshifters. I'm like, just slice my hand open. I'm like, and everybody just did it willingly too, like Cisco, Kira,
and nobody's sanitizing between.
No, it's like it's
people.
All like,
oh, you're gonna
okay,
cut
wait a second.
and have...
You have AIDS now. You have AIDS now. You have space AIDS.
If you wanted to get cut somewhere, where would it be?
Well,
in the fleshy part, like the arm or something.
The arm, like right here.
Oh, well, somewhere
that's true. Use
somewhere
your hand.
fleshy.
That's not gonna heal really well. That's gonna heal really badly because
you're
using your hand all the time. And it's gonna be really painful because every time you go like this, I'm like, ow.
Of like, he just cut me here somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah. This
Cut off some of this.
Don't cut here. Don't cut here. Don't cut here. And we're good. Aside from that, don't cut in the face. Nowhere in the head or the face, and not the hands.
It really is. You're right. It really is like this area. That's it.
Yeah, or like the thigh or something. Maybe a thigh or a calf. Like somewhere mostly this muscle.
And then you guys notice there was a Kunism at the end. It was just like a tacked on joke that was completely random, and I was just like, "What is?"
Oh fuck!
I think I checked out by that point.
But I thought you liked
I was like, I wanted them to go all in when he dies, and it's like that he becomes a baby in his wife's arms. Like they're all surrounded a baby. It's like
that would have been amazing. No, it would have been a space baby. Somebody didn't look outside the window and there was a space baby. He's like, oh.
I was like, yeah, they only let him de-age to like age 30 or whatever. I'm like, oh, he should be like a baby or an embryo or just a massive shit.
he probably would have kept going if he didn't die because of the treatment.
But I guess they didn't have the proper CG technology to go all in on that de-aging. Because did they do that? They did that in Butterfly Effect anyway. He went right back to the womb and then he like strangled himself.
Yep. That happened.
Umbilical cord. That's dark.
Yep. So
Yep.
I don't remember. Do you remember what the joke was at the end? There was Alan. Do you remember what the joke was at the end?
I do not already.
Oh, it was something
remember.
about like, it was Riker saying, it was Picard saying something like, when you're old, you realize that. Anyways, he was saying like basically there's something wise that you learn when you're old, and then Riker says, well, I hope you can learn that when you're young too. And they smile at each other, and that's like, that was supposed to be the joke, and it's not funny. And then there's like, okay, and there's the last thing is, the last shot is Data and Geordi nodding at each other. Riker does a little joke, and then Geordi looks at Data, and they go. And what is it with nodding in Star Trek? Do you notice how many times people nod at each other in this show? It's like an insane amount of times. Geordi and Data are nodding at each other all the time. You know who's nodding? Who's another culprit of that is Major Kira. She was like a crazy nodder. So they were like nodding at people. Too much nodding. Too much nodding.
Oh, your chair looks like a captain's chair.
Yeah.
I think, did they do that in an episode? Was that in like season 3 when they trapped those aliens on the bridge? And they talked to the aliens and like, see how I communicated with my officers and you didn't even realize. Because he like nods to like Worf, and then he like, to Riker, and then Riker nods to, and then they make the force field. It's like, I could tell my officers that I want to keep you here without even speaking a word.
He was using the force.
Yeah.
I think he was using the force.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that one, I guess.
Okay, let's get to the ratings. Namir has video games to play.
I do. It's almost 10 o'clock. What is this nonsense? So I'm going to give this a 4. I'm going to give it a 4. Solid 4. I thought it was, it was potentially a good story that wasn't executed, exceptionally well. And the acting from Jamieson and the makeup really kind of pulled me out of it.
Alan.
No, I feel like I'm revisiting my initial. It seems like I was going to give this a big more glowing review than I am. But yeah, I'd probably give this one like a 5. I would say, again, I like the premise. I like, there's certain things I liked about it. Again, I like the phaser fight and different scenes. But again, like Namir, the makeup, the bad guest actor, it all kind of took me out of the. It took it down a few marks. So, and yeah, in retrospect too, looking at the fact that hardly any of the regular cast did anything significant to do, kind of sucked too. So, I'll give it a 5. Where I didn't hate it as much as other ones, but I know there's a lot better ones coming.
Wow, it's like your rating doesn't match at all what you said. You basically said the episode sucked, and I'll give you a 5.
Well, I didn't hate it. Well, I wasn't gonna gush about it, but it didn't offend me like it didn't offend my intelligence like a lot of the other ones, like Data Lore. My God, Data Lore is bad. So bad. They're all so stupid in that one.
I'm going to give this episode a 1 out of 10 because that's how much I like it.
Wow. Whoa.
Hey, that's down with Code of Honor. I feel like it should be more than Code of Honor.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think you're risking a lot by rating Code of Honor more than this.
What did I give Code of Honor?
We all
like
gave it a
2 or
1
3.
because it sucked.
Oh, did we all give it a 1? Yeah, there you go.
We all gave it a 1.
You're gonna have to give this a 0.
You give this a 0?
I think you have to give it a 2.
I have to give. I have to give it more than Code of Honor. Okay, what the problem with Code of Honor is that it's racist. But if you take that out of the episode, it's like that's an okay episode. It's just so offensive and the sexism and racism of the episode, but the story itself and whatever is, I think this story is worse. This episode is worse, not for its moral and ethical value system, just in terms of a story. It just sucks.
This episode is ageist.
I know. All the old people, we don't get any love.
I know. If I was an
Basically-
85-year-old man, I'd be angry at how I'm represented on screen.
Basically, the thesis of this episode is that old people suck and you shouldn't trust them.
Just where in the future the things we do